Poland.
Yeah, Poland.
It wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't. It was a maybe a small city, big town, however you want to describe it. Mm-hmm. And I mean, there's it's not huge, but it was that's where I grew up. My dad's side of the family, my grandma and grandpa, they lived there. My mom's side of the family lived in a different town. We would go like a small farming village, which was literally like a street. That was where they lived. It was close to a town, but their little village. We'd go there probably twice a year for about a couple weeks in the summer. So it's always a lot of fun. But then the culture there, as far as music schooling, was a little bit. I don't know what it is like now.
Yeah,
it was a little bit different. Where if you wanted to learn an instrument, you have to go to a music school. Like you wouldn't. They didn't have that in the regular school. I think we had maybe some singing, maybe a little bit of choir, something like that. If I remember, that was part of the regular curriculum, but it wasn't like band class.
Yeah.
Like, you start here, when do you start? 5th, 6th grade? I don't remember. Somewhere around there?
Yeah, I mean, they put me on instruments. They gave us a pudding zoo like back when I was in 4th grade, I think it was.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, would you say Poland, or at least the town you were in, or even the culture itself, was the same or different then and now when you were growing up there, or?
I mean, there now, I have no idea what it's like there now as far as the musical culture. But when my parents, I'm trying to remember, my grandma played piano a little bit. She taught me some things just by sight, by ear.
Yeah.
But they wanted to say, hey, go. They wanted me to go to music school. I don't remember if I said anything or if they just wanted me to go. I believe they wanted me to learn maybe piano or violin as my main instrument, something like that. Or they had talked about it, but at that time I was 7, and I was told it's too late to start on those specific instruments as like your main instrument for whatever reason. They're they want to start younger, and they had a kind of a marching band, concert band at the school. They needed trombone players, so they wanted me to play trombone. But the first thing that they do is they kind of took me for like a music assessment to, which is kind of crazy.
See if we can actually play it.
Well, no, just to be able to tell what I can do as far as music, what I'm able to hear, which was kind of weird. You don't really have that here, I don't believe. But it was simple things like they play a note on the piano or 2 notes, and can you hear? Am I playing 1 note? Am I playing 2 notes? Am I playing 3 notes? But things that I don't ask students, like, hey, do you know, can you hear that stuff before you are allowed to go to music school? So it's a little bit more intense, but it wasn't like weird or bad in any way. It's just kind of how things were done. And then they said, no, we need trombone players, so you're gonna play trombone, which I was fine with, and I didn't know what it was. I didn't like see it necessarily. But then the other part of it, at that time, school had already started for a little bit, and I technically was behind because I wasn't there. I think we started in the middle of the year or like a few weeks in, so I had to go to a music tutor to learn things before I went to music school, as far as learning things on the piano, learning how to read music. Mm-hmm. So I learned almost basic piano skills, like chords and writing things down before I went to the actual school at age 7. And then the things that I would do in school are things that I wouldn't have to do again here until my undergrad, which is crazy. So I would do music dictation, which I think that now that does happen in high schools. I think they do things like that. I'm not actually sure, but I would do like rhythmic dictation and you listen to rhythm and write it down, listen to a melody and write it down at a really, really young age. So I had a pretty good beginning as far as the structure of it, and then learning trombone on top of that as well, and then learning piano. After a year of your main instrument, you have to then learn a second instrument, which is usually piano. Mm-hmm. So I would also take piano lessons. So
essentially, they got you running pretty quickly.
Yes, yeah. There was it's just like you go.
Wow.
But it wasn't firm or harsh in any way. If that's kind of what it sounds like, I didn't feel that at the time. I didn't feel like I was made to do something more than that I should be doing. It just felt pretty normal, pretty natural to do that. Then I came here. I went to. Sorry. Sorry.
It's fine. On that question of coming here, like, why did you move it? Why did your family move at all, and why Chicago? And when you did move, did you ever like, man, Chicago sucks. I want to go back to Poland. I don't know.
No, it's my we had some family here, which made it a little bit easier. So my dad came here with family and started to work, and he liked it. And that was kind of the idea for all of us to then come here. But it took a little bit of time, but as with the immigration and everything, and getting green card, and then all that it takes time. And then I forget, because we got our citizenship a while back, several years ago, but you have to have your green card for like 10 years, I think, before you're allowed to become a citizen and things again. So
and vote in elections,
right? And so it wasn't until like five years ago that I was able to finally vote, because I became a citizen. Nice. So as soon as I could, I was like, let's do it. But yeah, we and came here. I think I was in 4th grade in Poland. Came here, and the way it worked, I jumped to 6th grade, just age-wise. That's how things worked out. But then the music kind of everything here with the school of band, it wasn't as intense as what I was used to. So everything felt quote unquote pretty easy for a while.
Yeah, like essentially growing up, like you were kind of the guy like, oh yeah, I got this. I'm the nerd because I was taught all these fancy things. And everyone's like, oh my god, this guy knows everything. Yeah. I don't know.
It was honestly, without sounding like I have an ego, it was a little bit of that, but it's nothing that I do or have is natural talent, if that makes sense. Okay, everything that I've done is because I had a really early start, and I liked it. I practiced a lot. Like there's we had a little upright piano at home. I played piano, played trombone, so I would do that because I wanted to do it. Yeah. And kept up with it, and I knew pretty early on that I wanted to do something with music, whether it's and probably performing. Like my first day of high school band, I signed up for jazz band. I didn't know what it was. It was on the on the sheets like, oh, jazz band sounds fun. I want to do it. Yeah, in high school.
Which high school?
Argo High School.
Argo?
Yeah, which is it's close by to here. It's in Summit. Okay. Yeah, it's not far from me. My parents live close by. First day of high school, first rehearsal for jazz band. I'd never heard jazz before, and
now you're a legend at it.
Well, I like doing it. I heard a recording. It was a Buddy Rich big band, a live big band recording that had a trombone solo feature. It wasn't like improvised solo. It was just a melody. Like a little bit of improvising, but mostly just melody. And the sound of that tune and the sound of the person playing the solo, I'd never heard anybody play that way. Yeah. And I was like, oh, this is really cool. This is what I want to sound like. And that's kind of where it started.
Yeah, I got you. So you kind of do well in high school. You maybe like put more effort into it. And did your parents ever like dissuade you from like becoming a professional musician because there's this stigma of get a real job?
Not at all. No, they were always very supportive of what I wanted to do. And my dad's a contractor, so he would he works a lot of different things. But the funny thing is, whenever I would ask him, I was like, hey, what are you doing? I was like, no, you go practice. Like, go do what you were doing. Like, wanted me to make sure that I was, So they're always very supportive, listening to concerts, going to shows, things, whenever they can. So, no, it was pretty great.
Nice.
Whenever my brother did a little bit of music as well, but we would always play, like, little concerts around the holidays. Like, if people came over for Christmas, we'd play some Christmas, Polish Christmas songs, things like that. It was always very supportive, which was great, because I know that's not the case for everybody.
Right.
I still talk to professional friends of mine. It's like, oh yeah, my parents, every so often they still say something. It's like, why are you doing this? Like, well, at this point, why are you still asking me?
What do you mean why I'm doing this? I'm paying my bills. What are you complaining about?
Right. I have a family. I have a car. I have a house. Everything's fine. What's the problem? I'm doing. I do what I want to do. But luckily, I never had that issue.
Right. So college comes around, and what were your options, and why did you go where you went?
I'm trying to remember the exact story. Originally, I wanted to go to Northern Illinois University, I believe, because of the teacher that they had. They had Joey Sellers, who's, I believe, out in L.A. now, I think. But he was a really well-known player.
Yeah.
And that's one of the people I wanted to study with. I found out the year I was going to go there, he's no longer going to be there. So he was his last year, and he was going somewhere else.
And you knew about it.
And I found out about it, that he wasn't going to be there. So my private instructor at the time, which I'm still really good friends with, and we play performances, gigs together.
Yeah.
It's Tim Kaufman.
Oh yeah.
And he
yeah.
said he went to Indiana University,
Mm-hmm.
so he made that suggestion. That's where I ultimately ended up going.
Mm-hmm.
So, and which was a great school, great environment,
Yeah.
great for all types of music. So I had a lot of fun going there, basically, and just learning. Having
Indiana in general, right fit, making great friends, great music, learning a lot of stuff. Everything just went well, basically. Indiana.
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, any college experiences, things go up and down, but overall, it was a great experience. And I still have friends from then that I talk to now.
Yeah, yeah.
And I still have brothers, musician friends generally, because that's who I was mostly connected with. But I ended up going there for 5 years. I did my standard undergrad and wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do after. So I kind of figured out, stayed for another year and did what they call a performance certificate, which is just a year of practicing giving recitals.
Yeah, it's a letter that says I can play really well. Hire me.
Basically, what it was, it's just a year to kind of hone your skills and for me to figure out where I wanted to go.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I figured out that I wanted to go to New York, and ended up auditioning at Juilliard and Manhattan School of Music. We had to do a pre-screening, I think. So you send something in and they decide if you're allowed to do the actual live audition.
Oh yeah.
And so I got accepted to do both, and I was trying to work it out that I would only have to go there for like a weekend.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
it didn't work out. Like the auditions were too far apart.
Yeah.
So I was kind of deciding like which audition do I want to take. And
you didn't want to like go there, come back, and then
Right.
twice, you know.
Right, and it's and then just a matter of cost too, flying out there twice and paying for hotel rooms twice and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So I ended up doing the audition at Manhattan School of Music because I had great faculty there, and I heard a lot of good things about the school. I was like, you know what, I wanted to do that. That's where I ended up going to school. So I went to the audition, ended up going to Manhattan School of Music for my master's, and then as soon as I was done, kind of came here. I just wanted to be here, and I wanted to be somewhere where I had a lot of good. I had made connections in New York as well. I had people that I still, to my old teacher from Luis Bonnier, who I mentioned, I'm still very good friends with. We had a CD together and we talk often. But I wanted to be somewhere where I had good connections that I knew I can work as a musician pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And that happened pretty quickly here. So as far as I came back and just emailed a bunch of band directors as far as going in and teaching private lessons.
I'm doing this now. Hire me, please. I need to make something work out. And you were confident that was going to happen since as you mentioned, like you had a lot of connections in the area and like you could like work from there basically.
Yeah, and that was very helpful. Knowing different players whether I've established players that I've taken lessons from before, or just players around my age. And that was. I mean, it wasn't easy, but I'm also really motivated. So as soon as I came home, like I said, I emailed like 10 or 15 different directors around the area.
Yeah.
And started, with a smaller studio, let's say maybe 10 students, to now, if it goes from, fluctuates between like 45 and 50 or 60.
A week?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's not that high. I think 50 was actually maybe the highest that I had. With the pandemic, things went down, and now they're coming back up. So between 35 and 50 is usually a lot. I mean, it's a lot of students.
Does anyone ever set the record of like the most students in a studio, like given like 20 lessons a day or something like that? And like,
I'm sure people have done. It's a lot. It's a lot to give your individual attention to that many people like in a row.
Yeah.
Right? And you don't want to get to a point where you get so tired you're not giving them everything that they deserve.
Right, because then it's like, oh wait, what did we talk about last week? I can't remember.
Right. That's still happens to me. I mean, I take notes on all my lessons. So I make sure I take a note of what we talked about just in case. Sometimes I remember. Some students I don't remember everything. So I just kind of go like, oh, that's right. We talked about this. Let's this is where we're going to start. But I always keep every lesson that I do, I have a note of what we're doing, what we're working on, day by day, and so that makes it easy to remember.
Yeah.
But I think a friend of mine said I think he had 60 students, and that was his limit. Was 60 students a week, which is a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot of, so yeah, it's a lot of students. And you don't know if those are 30-minute lessons, if they're an hour lessons, right? That also, it all depends, right?
Yeah,
I mean, if there's 60 students and 60 hours in a week, that's ridiculous. That's, as far as the amount of teaching, it's like, are you going to wear yourself out really quickly?
Yeah.
And with with performing as well, that's the other thing that I do. I teach and perform and record
and YouTube
like, anything that I can. Whether obviously to bring in money, to support myself, to support my family. That's a big motivational factor. Other than the fact that I like doing it, right? Which helps, because if you like doing something, it doesn't necessarily always feel like work.
Mm-hmm.
Which is what we all want to do, right? Some people work for a living. Some people, enjoy what they do. I mean, again, you're working, but it doesn't feel like work.
Yeah,
to a certain
I
extent.
got you. So I guess talk to me about like what the jazz scene in Chicago is like. Maybe like what makes it unique from like the jazz scenes in other cities in the country, or even just like, could you be doing what you're doing right now in Poland? Like, gotten your degrees and then said, "Hey, I'm gonna make Poland the best jazz country in the world." I don't know.
To be honest, I don't know. I don't know I did the last time I went. Or the last and only time got to go back and visit. I want to go back again, hopefully sooner than later.
Yeah.
I did a couple of performances. So I went with my wife and my mom, and kind of messaged. So I was like, hey, can I set up just it was a family visit, so I'm not going to be working the whole time, but for the set up 2 shows basically, one in Warsaw, one in Krakow. Set up 2 shows there, which it was so I got to meet Polish musicians, which was a lot, and I mean the level is great. Everybody's really, really good.
Yeah.
But I don't, obviously the scene's not gonna be the same there as it is here.
Right, and
so
like, what's the difference?
Right. I'm trying to remember. I think there's just more. Like if you're talking about Chicago, there's more. Mm-hmm. I mean, you have tons of jazz clubs. I mean, you can talk about the big clubs. You have smaller venues. There's just a lot happening here. Versus in Poland, if you go to any one city, I don't know. There's so much per city, as far as how many clubs there are to play. But I don't want to speak.
Maybe there's like more classical music in Poland in the European countries, or
I'm not sure if necessarily that's the case, because there is a jazz culture there as well, and there's a lot to do. But I think there's I think it's more spread out.
Yeah.
As far as clubs and things like that, it's not as like if you go here. It's spread out, yes, but every city is very concentrated. It's got it's like 5 or 6 jazz clubs you can play. If you go to New York, there's tons of clubs. If you go to LA, there's tons of clubs you can play there.
Yeah.
Versus like this is the United States. You have a club here, club here, club here. That's not that. It's just you have concentrated pockets of venues.
Well, also Chicago's a big city. There's just much to do.
Right. There's a lot to do. There's a lot of great musicians, and that's kind of what it is. But it's it's all necessary to be able to do a bunch of different things. Whether me to go in and play at a jazz club, play a jazz quintet, play with a big band, play, in East, what I'm doing this week, play an Easter gig, which is actually more jazz centered, so I'm improvising. And
it looks like he was buying my thing though.
Yeah, she might kind of get a little nippy. It's, if she gets kind of excited, she'll she won't hurt, but.
So I guess now it's just like, obviously playing jazz music, but like, is the style that people like in certain cities more prevalent in other areas than not? Like, or is it? Because like, do you think it could be different in like Nashville or New Orleans?
Yeah, I mean everywhere.
Or Los Angeles,
right? Everywhere you go, it's because you have different players, different everything, and different kind of ideas. Oh yeah, if you go to Chicago, there's maybe different types of songs that if you go to a jam session, you're gonna usually call different tunes here than you're going to call in New York and call in LA. Just kind of a nature. I'm not sure of all the differences, because I haven't been to LA, I haven't been to New York in a long time, and I don't really remember. This came here in 2009, so I back that far I don't remember what tunes were called at jam sessions, but I know things are different.
Yeah,
it's just but music is music. You just you go somewhere, you play. I have friends in New York. I have friends in Nashville that are doing a lot of some brass band stuff. Some obviously it's a lot of great music happening there. I know a lot of friends of mine too have kind of moved from New York to some went to Nashville, some went to different places.
Yeah.
I think the pandemic had a lot to do with that too.
Yeah.
When everything kind of shut down, people are trying to figure out what to do.
Yeah. Right.
But it's hard. It's just music. It's everywhere, and it's going to be a little bit different. There's I mean, even talking about the theater scene, there's obviously a lot of stuff in New York, which I think most of it's opened up now. Here, it's starting to come back a little bit as well.
Yeah.
And that's another thing that's again part of why all these instruments are here, because that's something that I'm also doing. I like I like the idea of sitting down and playing the same show every night for a month or 2 months or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
It's, the consistency of doing that is fun, and the kind of challenge of playing, different instruments. Like, hey, on this song I have to play bass trombone, and the next song I have to play tuba, the next song I have to play trombone, but I have to use 5 different mutes and figure out how to juggle all of that.
Yeah.
I
guess so. Like, let's just say I or someone or a student of yours wants to aspire to be like you and like have a studio and like be successful in the jazz scene in Chicago. Besides the fact that they're a good player, what else do they need to do to like be active and like do it in a good way or something like that? I don't know.
Right. So having the skills. So let's say the person that you're talking about has the skills to they can sight read, they can play jazz, classical music, they can play the different instruments. They have the skills. Then they have to essentially become their own promoter, right? So you're like, I was always told this, and it's true. It's been true to me. That's always what I kind of tell people as well. Like, it's nobody's responsibility to know who you are, right? If nobody knows who you are, that's your own fault. Like, you have to go out so that some people. What it's, I mean, if you talk about working in the scene, it's more about going and being part of that scene.
Yeah.
So starting out, if you didn't know anybody, going to a show and introducing yourself. If there's a band that you want to play with, let's say if it's a jazz band, let's say if it's a quartet, it's like, I want to play with this band. What do? I go to the show. Number one, like, you have to. You can't be expected to play with a group of people who you've never seen play.
Yeah.
So go to a show, introduce yourself, and take a lesson. If it's a trombone player, say it's a trombone player in a section. I want to play in that section. Can I take a lesson from you? Some players will. I mean, generally everybody's going to be open to that. They'll be. That's totally fine. Some players will be like, yes, come take a lesson. Some will say, let's just hang, let's talk. It can be a little bit of both.
Yeah. I think it's that, as opposed to like just playing somewhere and then people will be like, who's this guy? I don't know. I mean, he's playing. Like, okay, well, that's, I guess, and like, it's like you can play somewhere and you don't talk to anyone. You just play, and they're like, okay, and they might be like, okay, but what else?
Right.
What else? It's like, okay, if we don't know this guy, who our connections are, it's a missed opportunity if you just treat it like that, like, as opposed to like you were saying, not just playing but also getting to know the people. And if you know this person, I played this guy last week and he has this connection with you, that sort of thing. Like that's essentially what you need to do, is like you need to be sociable.
Yep.
And unwavering your ability to promote yourself and say, hey, this is who I am. I'm going to do something for you.
Right.
I guess.
Yeah, and that's to a point. Like there's always instances if somebody comes on too strong or bugs somebody too much. Whether
hey, come on, let's do this.
You try to email a club and they're not responding. You email them once a week or once every few days. People are going to get tired of that. You send an email, maybe wait a month, do it again.
Yeah.
You can always follow up. But yeah, just whatever scene you want to be part of, go out and be part of that scene. Go to a jam session, which I used to do a lot when I had more free time. That's how I met a lot of players. Would go to jam sessions and call tunes and play, and you do that for a while, and people get to know you, call you for gigs. Some gigs pay $20, and you start there, and then as people know you more and things like that, you start to get opportunities that pay more. And again, you meet. You also want to meet people that are doing those things too, because if you're always meeting people that are like you and they're just starting out, they're not going to get those opportunities. That's not where that's going to come from. It's going to come from whether players that are more established, or again, you want to go in that. You want to meet players of your age. You want to play with your peers. You want to maybe start a band, do things like that.
Right.
But then you go say, hey, this person plays all the shows. This person does all the recordings. How do I?
We can trust him to actually deliver, as opposed to someone we may not know. To like say, okay, I would give you those fancy opportunities, but prove yourself first, and then maybe we'll talk.
Right. I mean, there's always a little bit of that. Whether it comes from a recommendation from somebody else that they say, this person took, or take a lesson. I take a lesson from somebody like, that they can hear this person's a great player. They can play all the instruments. If there might be an opportunity for him to sub on me on this, because I know they can play. The taking a lesson isn't always about learning something about the instrument. It could just be about you being there and playing for that person, so they know that you can.
Yeah.
Right. So I mean, that's always a big part of it.
Awesome. So I guess anyone who aspires to be you, like, what would you, it's like, do you have like one bit of advice that's like that you would send to everyone watching this? Like, what do I do for me to be successful? Like, how what's your like, I don't know, like 2 cents of like, here's what I do and this will help you. I don't know.
Just promote yourself. Just again, that's probably what one of the things you don't learn in school is that you are your own promoter. You know, like skills on the instrument don't matter if people don't know you.
Right.
So that's like, you have to do that. You have to, you know, again, if you want, be part of the scene that you want to be part of.
Right.
Get involved.
Right. Because I think I mean, for some people, I mean, it's like for some people, yes, promote yourself, but for some people it might be easier said than done, because some people might be too shy, some people might not be too confident about their abilities to deliver, or I don't know, like meet others. Some people just like have social anxiety, and some people like will have the energy to talk for maybe 5 minutes, but if they want to keep the conversation going on for 30 minutes, you kind of just go, oh man, well, this is going to end, you know, like that kind of thing. Like what's your message? It's like, what's your message to like those who like maybe struggle with maybe self-confidence or just like mental issues in general, I guess. I don't know.
I'm not really sure what to say. I'm considering myself more of a shy person.
Oh,
I didn't
okay.
used to be as outgoing as I may seem like now. I just don't care as much what other people think. That helps. Obviously,
Right.
if you're talking about somebody that has more of a social anxiety, then yes, things can become difficult. But you know, I don't know if there's a way around, like you have to meet people, at least a, you know, small level. If it's something you're afraid to talk to somebody in person, you can always send them an email. You know, you can go to a show, and if you don't want to speak to them on the bandstand, there's nothing stopping you from just going home. It's like sending emails. Hey, I came out to the show. I saw the show. I loved it. Everything was great. I'd like to, you know, can we get together in person? I'd like to take a lesson.
Yeah.
There's other ways to approach it. That doesn't have to be face to face right off the bat.
I see.
If that's the block.
I see.
Right?
Okay.
Because everybody communicates through email, right? You're not gonna get somebody's number necessarily, but it might be easier to get their email.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And that's you know, then you can sit down at home and say, oh, I'm gonna think about how I'm gonna, you know, what I'm gonna write and type it out that way. So that's very possible.
Anything else you want to share before we wrap it up today? I mean, we talked about a lot, obviously, you know.
Right, talked about a lot of different things. Not really. I mean, it's been great having you here. I appreciate you coming out. It's been fun for me too.
Sweet.
To be able to talk.
Awesome. Well, I do really appreciate you also. You know, it's like I've done a lot of Zoom interviews before, but like now that the pandemic's over, I want to do stuff in person. Want to meet people in person. I could also, like, now that I have 2 fancy, kind of good microphones, like set up my living space in my apartment as like a podcast studio or something like that. I don't know, but also it's like I could also meet people like you in person, so that like I can, you know, not just sit behind a computer like, oh, I'm just gonna find whatever else I can find and make a video out of it, you know.
Right. I mean, there's a lot you can do from home, but yeah, there's, you know, you're in an area where there's a lot of great musicians.
Yes.
And a lot of different musicians of different genres of everything from classical to jazz, rock, funk, blues, Latin. Like there's everything. You know, everything can be found here, and
Awesome.
you know, and it would, you know, wouldn't be a bad idea to get, you know, viewpoints from you know, if you're talking about drum players specifically, from different genres of music, different things. You know, people that do strictly theater, people that do, you know, strictly small club days, but there are still, you know, those people still exist that are, you know, more kind of specialized in areas. But there's also a lot of us that, you know, try to do as much as possible, but do it well, right? That's kind of the stigma of jack of all trades, master of none. Like, I can do all this stuff, but I can't do all of it really well. Which is not what we want to do.
Yeah, and if you know anyone who wants a similar interview, kind of in-person kind of thing, just let me know. And also, I look forward to maybe even attending one of these events and concerts, maybe with you in it or a friend of you in it. And
definitely, I'll let you know, because a lot of things I do, like with a wedding band and private things, are, you know, not things that you can attend necessarily. But when something comes up, then I'll definitely let you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'd love to have you come up.
Absolutely. Well, Luke, again, thank you so much, and I really appreciate you doing this with me. I mean, I had a blast doing this today with you. Also,
thank you.
Absolutely.
It's been a pleasure.